Crime does not pay. Welcome back to TTS Daily Crime Edition, SG Edition. 3 stories today. First up, an influencer caught stealing. Second, we go through SPF, Singapore Police Force latest mid-year crime statistics. And lastly, we have an update on the case where a maid has her sentence reduced to culpable homicide. Let's go. Crime. Don't do it, boys and girls. We have this 30-year-old Singaporean influencer, Genie Yamaguchi. Another influencer. It's so hard to catch up with the number of influencers we have in Singapore because there's just so many. Okay, I grew up in a time where we only have influenza and no influencers. Growing up, the influencers I've watched growing up were just like Xia Xie and Don Yang. So, Genie Yamaguchi, good name for an influencer by the way, instantly remember your name, 30 years old, has conspired with her friend Lee Xue Kai, 28 years old, for theft. So apparently this incident happened at a Don Donkey outlet at Orchard Central on August 25, 2024 between 2:30am and 3am, where the dynamic duo stole 27 beauty and skincare products by placing them in a shopping cart and leaving the store without payment. So the items they took, 27 items including makeup sponges, lipsticks, serums, blushes, essence, tote bags, hair sets and pasta products. Basically, it seems that they're just shopping for essentials, right? They did all the shopping and just didn't do the paying. The total items that they take, total value was 628.90 Singapore dollars. So, okay, this part I had to recheck a few sources to make sure that I'm not misreading it. So apparently, after they left the store with the cart without paying, they met up later and was noticed by a staff member on duty at Don Donkey outlet, who recognized them, alerted the manager who checked CCTV footage and then confirmed the theft, lodged a police report where they were arrested later. But my point is, am I reading this correctly? Did they really just commit a crime and then return to meet up at the place where they commit the crime? How else would a staff member on duty notice them? Wow, yep, that actually happened. So yeah, 9 items were recovered and returned after they were arrested. But the defense have noted full restitution has been made to Don Donkey on August 22nd, 2025, and Yamaguchi has pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to commit theft on August 26, 2025. Taking note, she has no prior criminal record and the prosecution has requested assessment for a day reporting order and sentencing to be adjourned to September 23rd, 2025 pending a suitability report for the day reporting order. And what else? Oh yeah, Yamaguchi actually is huge. She has 14,800 Instagram followers. But when I wanted to check, it seems that she might have deactivated her account, and apparently she is also a business owner. She has a preserved flower business, not sure how that works, and a beauty aesthetics clinic. So you're telling me she's a clinic business owner, but she went on a theft spree for $600 worth of SGD goods? Crime does not pay, boys and girls. Anyway, okay, now let's talk about her friend, Lee Xue Kai. What's interesting about Lee Xue Kai is that she now faces 3 extra theft charges, okay? After she was caught for the Don Donkey spree, she has now been charged for also taking a Crocs slippers from Watson's at Suntec City on August 23rd, 2024. Few days before Don Donkey, and a Starbucks tumbler from Jurong Point on August 27, 2024, which is a few days after Don Donkey, and also items worth 3,000 over Singapore dollars from Mustafa Centre on April 28, 2024. I'm thinking right now, how did she being caught for theft in Don Donkey led to all these other thefts of her being revealed? Do we have like a great CCTV network system right now where all surveillance footage can be cross-checked, cross-referenced against one face? If not, how did all these other theft charges were unveiled against Lee Xue Kai? This is pretty amazing technology that we have right here, don't you think so? So anyway, her case is scheduled for September 1st, 2025. Lastly, remember, boys and girls, crime does not pay. Crime does not pay. We now have the mid-year crime brief by the Singapore Police Force 2025 for statistics from January to June, and we shall go through it. So there are 2 PDF released by them. We're going to go through the infographics first because pictures are pretty. So, okay, first up, we see right here, in the first half of 2025, physical crimes increased by 5.4%. Wow. And there is a chart here seeing, it goes from 2021 all the way to 2025. And yes, we now have 10,341 physical crimes in the first half of 2025. Help us all. How are we going to cope with this? And the type of crimes that went up was shop theft went up by 4.2%. No coincidence, our previous story, our first story, was a story about shop theft. So shop theft went up from, in the first half of 2024, from 2,013 to 2,097 in the first half of 2025. Interesting point of note, more than half of the cases involve amount less than $50 Singapore. So really small items, yeah? And it is one of the top offences committed by, not surprisingly, youths. That's why boys and girls don't do crime. Next up, oh my god, this went up by so much. What the? Outrage of modesty went up by 21.2%. Oh my god. There was a total of 666 cases reported in the first half of 2024 compared to 807 in the first half of 2025. Outrage of modesty includes, right? Inappropriate touching, misconduct, And oh wow, more than half of these cases involve offenders known to victims. Isn't this scary? Oh my god, what? The people committing outrage of modesty are actually known offenders to the victims and not strangers. What? Oh my god, this sentence alone gives me the creeps. And then also taking note, a lot of these have happened on public transport network, bus, MRT and so forth. And even along footpaths and pavements. Wow. Alright, this outrage of modesty statistic is really alarming, This is really alarming. And then voyeurism went down, which means, people using their little devices to take pictures, It went down from the first half of 2024, 258 cases reported, to the first half of 2025 with 222 cases reported. So 6 cases less this first half of the year. And most of them, not surprisingly, happen at shopping complex and public transport network. All the escalators at shopping malls and MRTs, that's usually where they do their, voyeurism. And oh, what's this? Theft in dwelling. This is interesting. Theft in dwelling. I don't even understand what this means. The total number of cases reported for theft in dwelling went up by 5.9% to 788 cases reported in the first half of 2025 compared to 744 reported in the first half of 2024. So 12 in dwelling actually means theft cases that happen in dormitories, office or shop houses. So where there's a lot of people that work together or stay together. This is a new interesting term that I'm just reading on right now. And lastly, good news, housebreaking went down 20% from 65 cases reported in the first half of 2024 to 52 cases reported in the first half of 2025. So yes, there are some improvements, some reduction in certain categories of crimes. Let's briefly go through the mid-year crime brief. No pun intended. Okay, good news. I've pre-read the mid-year crime brief so I can bring you more concise reporting. We're just going to focus on 3 areas, okay? Theft, outrage of modesty, and voyeurism. Theft, very fast. The retail outlets rank here is ranked from highest to lowest for the reported shop theft cases for the first half of 2025. And rank 1 is very surprising, cold storage at Nghi An City. Really surprising because this is like in Orchard, high-end area, you know, I thought there would be like a lot of surveillance and everything, but this is actually the number 1 rank for reported shop theft cases for the first half of 2025. Next up, we go to outrage of modesty. Okay, something I'm really surprised. I thought, on reading the statistics and the infographics, I thought most of it will happen in public transport because, you know, it's very squeezy, and I was really wrong because more than half of the cases happen in residential premises, which means more than half of the cases involve offenders known to the victims. Yeah, really scary stuff, okay? Next, we go to voyeurism. And once again, I initially thought from the infographics and from the news we read and covered that it probably only happened mostly at escalators, at MRT and shopping malls. But then, no. Surprisingly, more than half happened in residential premises again. And the offenders were usually known to the victims, such as current or former partners or household members or friends. I mean, oh my god. Reading this it's really upsetting to read this, yeah. You know, it really brings back to a point that, you know, I mentioned yesterday. That's why people always say, don't be afraid of the ghost man, because humans are scarier than ghosts. Stay safe, everyone. And also, crime does not pay. Crime. Finally, we have a conclusion to the Zin Ma Wee case, which we have covered twice before, where a Myanmar national, a Myanmar helper, unalived her employer's 70-year-old mother-in-law and had a conviction downgraded from unaliving someone to culpable homicide. And now she has been sentenced on August 26, 2025 to 17 years imprisonment. So her life sentence have been reduced to 17 years imprisonment. Just a quick recap as we have gone through this case several times. Zin Ma Wee unalived her employer's 70-year-old mother-in-law by poking her 26 times while the victim was watching television on June 25, 2018. For background, she arrived in Singapore on January 5, 2018 with the passport falsely stating her age as 23 when she was actually 17. And after a sequence of events where she was provoked where she committed the act. Initially, she was found guilty of unaliving someone in 2023 after a trial, sentenced to life imprisonment on July 4, 2023. However, that conviction was reduced on May 2025 to culpable homicide. Once again, her life sentence has now been reduced to 17 years imprisonment. So when will Zin Ma Wee be released? Zin Ma Wee was arrested on June 25, 2018 and has likely been in remand custody since then. In Singapore criminal law, jail sentences are typically backdated to the date of remand. So if she has been in remand since 2018 and she has been reduced to a 17-year sentence, she would be released around June 2035 without considering any remission. So she would have entered custody at age 17 and would be released around 34 years old around June 2035. If she were to receive full 1/3 remission, you know, where up to 1/3 of her sentence can be reduced due to good behavior and such, she could potentially be releasing around October 2029 in a couple of years, actually, at roughly 28 years old. Crime does not pay.